Hello, everyone. Welcome to CyberThreat Talks Podcast, where we explore the ever-evolving landscape of the cybersecurity world. I am your host, Kajan, and I'm joined by my co-host, Ahan.
Today, we're joined by a special guest, the head of a branch banker platform and senior engineering manager at Wells Fargo, Paresh Mehta. Hello, Mr. Mehta. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, Ahan, and hello, Khajan. It is my pleasure to join this podcast. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
Mr. Mehta, if you could, for those who don't know you, introduce yourself with a few fun facts about yourself and what specifically you do in the world of cybersecurity and banking.
Sure. So, again, my name is Paresh Mehta. I'm head of branch banking for Wells Fargo branches and senior engineering manager. What I do in the bank is for our branch banking functionality when we work with our customers. When a customer comes to branch to open an account or do a wires transaction or do other functionality, we have a software which me and my team which manages and we serve our customer to all those functions. And part of that, when we interact with our customers, we get a lot of confidential information from our customers, like their credit card numbers, their debit card numbers, their social security, their addresses. All this data considers a personal data, and we categorize them in PCI and PII data. And part of our cybersecurity, me and my team not only write software to serve our customer for those functionality, but we also make sure that the personal data of our customer remains confidential, and we do right data cleansing in our environment, like encryption of the data, making sure where we don't have to store the data, we don't store it, and also reproduce the data whenever it is needed. So part of my job is not only to serve the customer, but also to make sure that as part of our cybersecurity mechanism, keep that data confidential. Fun fact about me, I think there is not a lot of fun fact other than working is I'm a bike rider. I have a Harley. So over the weekend, I ride Harley. So that's just one fun fact about me.
Yeah, that's definitely really interesting. But I know that obviously we're going to get into some more technical information relating to banking and how it relates to cybersecurity. But at first, I just wanted to get some like general questions out of the way. What you do in your job experience, things you've done in your career. So the
Mm-hmm.
first question I would want to ask is, what got you interested in the world of banking? Um, and if so, what caused you to gain that interest? So when did you get interested in that space, and what caused you to gain that interest?
Sure, great question. So over the last 25 years, of experience I have here in United States, I have worked in two industries, retail and banking. And in retail is my number one passion. When I came to this country, my first job with Target Corporation, one of the large
Yeah.
retailers in US, and I continue to work with retail after Target. I worked in JCPenney. So after around, almost 20 years, I wanted a different challenge. And and what I realized it in 2018, banking industry was going through a lot of transformation in terms of modernization. So that was the time when I thought that the work I'm doing in retail, and a lot of the modernization work I did, be it a cloud adoption, going through a microservices environment, and also taking care of our customer data, correct security measures, what we are doing. Bank industry being a little bit, guarded industry, they were slow in moving in that direction. And it dawned to me that, the experience I have, I can certainly translate into banking and hopefully, go to a banking sector and kind of to drive that kind of work for them as well. So that was one of the reasons, after working for 20 years, I wanted a different challenge in my life.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. You talked about the shift from retail to banking, and I think both of those industries are pretty big in cybersecurity, but I definitely agreed with what you were saying.
Yeah, and one point I want to make is, be it retail or banking, the data, personal data for customer, you have to treat same way, correct? And
Yeah.
there are two venues of data streaming, correct? One is data in transit, through transaction, through discussion, and one is how after the transaction or interaction with customer is finished, how industry takes care of that personal data. So those are the two biggest, venues where somebody can come in and grab hold of that data, and then both industries work in a similar fashion. So as we continue with our questionnaires, we can deep dive on those things as well.
Yeah, of course. And
And Mr. Mehta, I know
yeah.
you've had a lot of experience working in the banking and retail sectors throughout your entire career, whether that was being a director at POS Solutions at JP to your current job at JP Morgan. But I wanted to ask you, what is your role in your current job, and what would an average day look like?
Sure. So I used to work in JP Morgan. My current job is with Wells Fargo. So what does my job look like? So there are two aspects of banking which are very critical for for me. Number one is audit, compliance, and risk reduction across all of my applications. That's number one. And second thing is, how do we continuously serve our bankers and our customers via modernizing the software which has been written 10-15 years ago. I think the focus and the way of writing the software 15 years ago was different. Now it's more of a microservices architecture, micro UI. We are moving from JavaScript to more of React and Node.js technologies, and more of a cloud functionality. So what does my, coming back to your question, what does my day look like? I think most of my day, goes through between those two, critical things we do at banking. I think going through a lot of risk compliance meetings, talking to our auditors, making sure, the quarterly audits which happen in my organization, we give right amount of information, and then we pass those audits. And at the same time, all of my 70-80 team members, engineers, how they continue to improve our software through three different S's. I like to say, scale your software, secure our software, and also make sure that software is is not how do I say that, producing anything which jeopardizes our customers' information.
Right. And
Yeah.
I heard that you mentioned about cloud security. We recently did a video on this, and I wanted to ask you, how do you feel like cloud security plays a role in the banking sector in general?
I would say one thing, banking as a general is slow to adapt to cloud technology. And so without going in much detail, because I cannot provide two larger banks I worked at, JP Morgan and Wells Fargo, we do have a cloud strategy, but I think totally going to a public cloud will not be a suitable, solution for us, because we work with people's, money. I think, and so we have to be very vigilant, very careful that if we also adopt cloud, how we adopt in a way that we do not even, compromise 1 cent for our customer. And that's why banking industry is slow to adapt to a cloud technology, not just from the security purposes, overall moving the applications up there. While retailers, they get so much customer feedback immediately, they are adopting the cloud much faster than banking. That would be one thing I would say.
So would you say that some of like the retailer space is like quicker to adopt some of these new security technologies than something like a banking space?
I would say though, yes. One thing is, but I would say on the contrasting side, banking does have a lot of inbuilt, security, what you call measures they have taken, which are working for them for years now. So they are reluctant to change it, because if something is working, why fix it? Correct?
Yeah, of
And then
course. Yeah.
so, while retailers, because they do all this new modernization work, by virtue of doing that, they have to automatically adopt to new standards. While banks know that what they have done long term, it's working. So we do not want to, take unnecessary risks.
Yeah, so that what you provided, it was very valuable insight. But I would like to kind of switch on again your careers and some of your more personal, like the sort of jobs you've done and that sort of career related information. But I
Mhm.
would want to ask, what is a pivotal moment or project in your career that's influenced, the trajectory of your career, or made you change something about your career, or what career you're going to?
Sure. I would say a couple of things. I think working at GC Penny, one of the retailers I worked here in Texas, we I my perspective always was very technology driven. We had a system which we had an issue. It was an old system, and it was doing a lot of good things for the organization. But it was not functioning and behaving. It was not scalable. It was not stable. And I wanted to go and modernize that system, but I was not able to sell that to my leadership, my business partner. And one of my mentors in the organization, or product owner, he said, Paresh, you are looking this from a different perspective. Go and talk to your leaders from the perspective of how, if you modernize this system, can help bring more business to the organization, company, correct? So just
Yeah.
technology enhancement is not enough, but how it is helping your business, and what is the return on your investment. And I really, when I got mentorship around it, and it really dawned to me. And what I did is, rather than just talking about technology, I did more data around how, if we modernize this system, can bring more customer, how it adds to the bottom line revenue of your organization. And we did a study of how in next 5 years can improve our sales and whatnot. And when I produces that data, it really kind of got a lot of momentum. We got the approval for budget. And why I'm telling you that was a pivotal moment where something in me changed, where I said, okay, I cannot just look at a solution from a technology perspective, but overall how it takes your organization to the next level.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The fact that you're looking more into actually how that would affect the customers. So it
Yes.
seems like, besides from just the technology part, a huge part of what you're working in banking security and also retail security, is also how will the customers react to this. And obviously for banking, it's a lot, these customers are a lot more rigid. They're like, or the actual industry itself is a lot more rigid, where they want to, there's a lot more private information for these customers, and you have to make sure that you're upholding that. So I think that becomes even more important when you're working in those sort of sectors like banking. But
Very well said. Yes.
yeah, so Kajan, would you like to add anything
Yeah,
onto that?
I mean, that was great and really interesting. And given your background, I'm curious about the more technical side behind what you do and how that relates to cybersecurity. So we have a couple questions on how your field relates to the world of cybersecurity as a whole.
Mm-hmm. So let me give a little bit. In my introduction, I said correct, because we work with customer, day in and day out. We take a lot of the data from customer, and then the data comes into flows in our system in two ways: data in transit and data at rest. What we mean by data in transit is, as a customer, you come to our bank, and while opening an account, you provide PII data to us. So we collect that data, and it flows through our system. So at the time of transaction, when that data is flowing, we need to make sure that data is secure. Correct?
Yeah.
So no attacks can come in and then grab that data. And also, once the transaction is complete, the data goes in a lot of our system, to do a lot of different things. So how, once that data is generated, and then in it, our database is how we keep that data secure. Now, some of the things we do is, we upfront kind of do a lot of things. Take an example of, card numbers, and people's social security number. So what we do is, when we grab that data upfront, we know why would we have a card number in all of our system, because then all of our system becomes PCI sensitive, and then we have to remediate that. So rather than that, this is a common practice across all industries, and especially in retail and in banking. What they do it is, at the initiation of the transaction, they convert that card number into something called credit reference number. So now that number has no meaning other than me. So if somebody hacks my system and gets that number, there is no relationship of that number with the actual customer. So what we do is, we convert a actual card number into a reference number, and that reference number then flows through all of our systems. So from a technology perspective, we have integration with a system which does that for us, and then that system is very well guarded. So in my job as a technologist and as an engineer, day to day, we make sure that we continuously, enhancing our security measures, going from TLA, transaction security, system 1.0 to 1.2 to 2.0 for our HTTPS transactions, Also making sure you are doing encryption in right way. So adhering to, RSA and, other
Yeah.
encryption standards, correct? Also figuring it out, security attacks, SQL injection, and continuously make sure our systems are guarded and tested against those kind of cyber security attacks. So other than doing the regular business work, from a cybersecurity perspective, we always do that, and banks are very vigilant. So for an example, when I was in retail, we used to do our audit once a year. In bank, my audit happens every quarter. So we continuously monitor our system every quarter, and me and my team continuously produce evidence to our auditors that our systems are secure all the time.
Right.
So it's really
That's that's extremely important in banking, especially where it goes beyond the dollars and cents. There's a whole
Mhm.
framework behind that to ensure customers get the best experience where even the smallest loss can result in the greatest repercussions, right?
Yes.
So
Yes,
I
and
find
we
it
cannot
that
take that challenge. You guys know a certain bank just got hacked 2 years ago, and all of the customers' data was compromised, and how much it put everybody in pain. And so we cannot take, especially banking, cannot go through that kind of experience.
so if there is some sort of if like these banks do get like their security systems do get bypassed and all this information is released or all this confidential information, how do banks deal with that? Like
So that's a good question. I have not gone through it, but I do. We do have a measure, where if certain things happens, without going in much of the details, because I cannot, share that with you guys. What I
yeah.
would say is there are measures to do that. We have
Okay.
playbooks in disaster scenarios, not only security, correct? We have data center. If something happens to a data center, if something happens to our branches, we do have playbooks to come out of it, and we continuously review those playbooks as part of our audits, and we enhance those playbooks as well.
Yeah, of course. And you also, I was interested about the specific cyber threats that you see in the banking sector, banking security. I know ransomware has definitely been on the rise over the years in
Hmm.
terms of banking security. But what would you say
Yes.
are some other cyber threats that you have commonly seen, and how do you see these banks implementing measures to stop against those sort of attacks?
So one of the common cyber threat across banks and retail stores is how people try to hack those vulnerable spots. So think about it. The corporate world where I work, and our engineers work, it's pretty much secure, correct? But think about a store, in the middle of a mall, where
Yeah,
you have landlines coming in, and same with our branches. Our branches are located in remote location, and those are what you call pain points for us. How to make sure that the branch network is really, we have right amount of security to protect our branch bank, the network, same as our stores network. I think those are the vulnerable points where where we have vendors coming in, they're working with us, and there is a cyber attack which we call it impersonating. What I mean by
yeah,
it, somebody gets hold of your credentials. If that happens, then they can come into your system, and as you can collect the data. So we make sure that we have right amount of security measures, complicated password setup, two-step authentication, stuff like that we implement. So to go back to your questions, I think the corporate level and at our data center levels, I think we are very secure. But the pain points for us are our branches, located, and then how we secure their network. And one of the most common attacks we have seen is malware, where we get emails from outside, which were sent to our bankers, and there are links. When you click to those links, your malware gets installed. So we have a lot of what you call upfront measures for all those emails. Also, we cleanse, we scan all of our emails, we make sure we don't get those kind of attacks. We also, every quarter, we ask all of our team members to go through the educational videos. So it's a repeat and rinse. And as the world changes, we add more education to our bankers to make sure that they are aware of not to click randomly on emails, make sure if they feel something is not right, rather than, replying to it, they contact to our, security and risk team immediately and report to them certain activities.
Yeah, I think that's really that's a great point, because one thing I did want to ask about was specifically social engineering, because I think that's definitely a huge threat. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it obviously, you said, like, in terms of data centers and stuff, those areas are very secure, but there can always be that one person who's trying to impersonate somebody else or is using some other method to get that
Yeah.
inside information. But I guess another question I would want to ask is kind of those internal threats. So say you had like some sort of employee who's working on the inside and they wanted to gate, and like they had access to this sort of information. How do you ensure
Mm-hmm.
that those internal employees aren't able to gain access to like people's confidential information?
Good question. I think we implement, and every industry implements something called separation of duties. I think internal threat is one of the most, unpredicted way of losing your data, because you never know somebody's mindset. So what do we mean by separation of duties? So let me give you an example. Me and my team as a development, we can certainly put a code. One of my engineers, disgruntled engineers, can put a code and can get the data, correct? So what we do is we have a lot of upfront, black duck, checks mark, and other security, what you call tools where we scan all of our code. Correct. So we figure out those threats, before even going into production. Also, once the code is generated, the developer's work is no longer needed. What we mean by that is we have another team. I have another team which takes care of creating an executable of your code and making sure everything is properly, scanned and reviewed. And then we have a third team who actually does that production code implementation, and they only have production access. None of my engineers have any production access. So that's called separation of duty. You can write the code, but you have no authority to go in production and look at the data. You can implement the code, but you do not have any information of how that code is implemented. And you have production access, but do not know what the code accessing that data. That's how. So what you do, you remove a single choking point who can write a code, implement a code, and can look at the production data. So we remove that, and by separating the duties, we kind of limit the access at every level, so that we at the end of the day, whoever needs a right access to the data point, we provide that access. But not only that, every quarter, and banking quarter audit is very, very critical. We audit your access point. We see employees need. If the employee's role is changed, we remove that access. And we also, part of that, we make sure if employee has gained access to some of the PCI data, there is proper authority channels through which the employee goes. They cannot just randomly go and
Yeah,
ask for that data.
of course. Yeah.
Right. You mentioned how there's different teams in the banking sector. So, how, with all the social engineering happening and threats of
Mhm.
cyber attacks, how crucial do you think is the collaboration between different departments such as engineering, compliance, risk management, on top of social engineering? How crucial
Very,
do
very
you think
crucial.
these are in maintaining a secure banking environment?
Very, very crucial. So let me talk a little bit about social engineering before I talk about the collaboration piece. So for banks, we do not allow access to any of the email engines within our bank environment. Uh, any of our environments, you cannot look at your Gmails, Hotmails, Yahoo mails, nothing. You cannot open Facebook, Twitter, TikToks, and Instagram, nothing. So we are a very restricted organization. I think other than, some websites, we do not allow a lot of websites. Google's also very, very restriction. So that is one way of controlling the influx of, social engineering, correct? You just restrict everybody out of your environment. If you want to look into it, you have your personal devices, please utilize it. But within our secure network, you are not allowed for any of the social engineering to happen. That's number one. Number two, you said collaboration. I think the collaboration is very, very critical. So as I in my introduction, I said, in my role, 50% of my time goes in meeting with our audit teams. You know, out of 8 hours, 4 hours of my day is in auditing and then meeting with my auditors, making sure we are providing them the right amount of data. And why I said that it's critical is it's called oversight. So as an engineer, sometimes you are focused on your delivery and there might be oversight from you. You might not do the right right thing with encrypting your data or making sure you are using the right protocol, or sometimes you grab a data and just leave it somewhere, correct? And that's where having a audit team with the right amount of authority and in making sure they are a watching organization on your activity, and holding you accountable for your actions, and writing right amount of what you call responses from you. They make sure that if we make a mistake also, they figure it out and then they guide us in the right direction. So that collaboration is very, very critical, because what happens is, if all the power remains with engineering, we can make a mistake, but now we have another body within bank which actually holds us accountable to make sure we are making the right choices in making sure we are securing our data.
Yeah, I think that framework is definitely very important. The way that everything works together, because that's definitely a huge part in what stops these attacks from even happening in the first place. But I kind
Yes.
of wanted to look into the future of technologies and cybersecurity and how they play into the banking sector. So I would want to ask you, what are some emerging trends or technologies in cybersecurity that you think can have a very significant impact on the banking sector in the future?
I think there are two things, which we embark upon. First of all, only collect the data which is necessary. Correct. So from
Yeah.
engineering perspective, when we create new applications, figure out upfront what is needed to collect that data. And number two is, once if you need to collect those critical data points, how to secure them. And again, correct, as I said, banks are very reluctant to change it because what's working is working for them for greatly, correct? So as the things go into cloud, the cloud providers do provide a lot of good encryption and other solution to what you call remove all this cybersecurity threats for us. So one thing I do see, and I cannot talk generally about it from my organization perspective, we are looking into it. So we don't want to stay in our current environment. We want to adopt to cloud. So we are looking at the right cloud partners, and we are looking at what methodology they are providing to secure our data, and based on that we will choose a right partner, and we make sure that we keep the data secure for our customers. And I know I have not provided you the right answer because banking is a slow moving industry. They will not take risk with customers data. We will not do that.
So would you say that there is still? Oh, sorry, you can. Yeah.
With the AI has been such a big buzzword these past few years. We've all heard it in the news everywhere. And
Mm-hmm,
so, with the increasing adoption of digital banking solution, we've
mm-hmm,
heard from you about how banks are leaning towards old solutions where if it's not broken, just don't fix it. But how
mm-hmm.
do you feel, how do you see the role of AI and machine learning evolving and enhancing cybersecurity measures within financial institutions
Mm-hmm.
in the near
So
future?
So great question. I think there are two things, correct? We can use AI to serve our customers, and we can use AI to what you call secure our customers' data. And I also want to make a point that it's not that bankers don't want to modernize it; they want to, but they want to take their time and make the right decision. I think
Yeah.
they don't want to go in a hurry and make a mistake which has larger ramifications. Correct. So I want to make sure you guys hear that it's not that banking industry doesn't want to do it. Some do faster than others. The larger organizations like Wells Fargo's and JP Morgan's and Citi, they have a responsibility to be a citizen to make right choices. I think because we serve so many customers, and then the amount of money movement happens through this large banking sector. So with that said, the question you asked about what can we do going further. One of the things I think we will look into is again, what is the right technology for us, and how do we optimize it for our solution.
Yeah, of course. I think, yeah, obviously there has to be a balance between what like having these new technologies, these emerging technology, implementing them. They obviously do have their own advantages, but the way you use them always has to be beneficial to the customers. You have to think about what the right what the right choice is for the customers themselves. But
And I do
I'll, yeah,
Sorry,
sorry.
Johan, I do want to say one thing about AI. I think that was the question Khajan asked, and I did say that, correct. We will use AI to keep our data secure. So, for an example, I do not know, if this is going to help us or not, but right now we are looking at Copilot. I do not know if you guys have heard about
Yeah,
Copilot or not,
of course.
but Copilot is a technology. What we are thinking is it's a good technology which will help our developers not only develop fast, which will help our developers to test their code really early in the development cycle, and also Copilot can help provide right security guidelines to our developers. So Copilot is one of the AI tools we are looking into it now. We have other chat GPT and other AI tools we can serve our customers. We are a little bit reluctant because people can misuse those technologies to again impersonate somebody else, and can take advantage of our customer. So from that perspective, the AI perspective, we will be vigilant, and you move it with the right choices. So I want to make sure the AI piece, I did not miss to answer that.
Right.
Yep. So that was
How do
really,
you how, how do you think AI will be used? Would it be more towards the front end where there's technologies like I've seen Bank of America do such things with digital assistant on their app that helps with
Yes.
banking transactions and depositing money? Or do you
hmm
feel like AI will play a bigger role in the back end in controlling user data and basically figuring out how all that data and personal information would be playing with each other?
I would say both. So, like you said, Bank of America, Wells Fargo also have a AI, mobile tool called Fargo. Ask Fargo. You can download it, and it has AI technology behind it. Without going in more details, which can give you a lot of information. So we already are adopting to it. But the good thing is, those applications does not play with your personalized data. Correct. They are not going to ask you what is your social security number, or something like that. So they generalize their answers, and they help you navigate through the app, and provide you right direction. Now on the back end side, where all this data is, AI can play a lot of role with the security, but I have not seen that maturity right now for me to have that faith in the AI. To tell you the truth, I want AI to be much more mature to do it, and that's why we are taking baby steps. And the first step is Copilot. I think we are going to we already have brought in Copilot. We are going to start adopting to it. One of my team has adopted. They are looking at the advantages of it also. But on top of it, what we are doing is, we are not saying Copilot that you write our code. What we are saying is, we are taking Copilot's help to integrate within our code. But then we have our lead engineers, our principal engineers look at that code and make sure it follows the right guidelines established by Wells Fargo engineering teams.
yeah. So one thing that I would like to ask is, you did say that of course AI does play a part in helping with the security of like banks and like solutions. But another thing is also, how could on the other side, like people who want to gain personal information and like cyber threats, how would you say that them using AI, does that, like, do those have like pros and cons? Because on the other hand, it can help protect the data, but on the other side, you can also have these threat actors who are harming.
And then that is the worry we have. Correct. Those threat actors can harm, and we have seen that not only banking, in real life. People take a lot of famous people's speeches, and an AI generates a speech pattern which shows them in a different light, correct? And that can happen if we use the AI, and if AI can kind of impersonate a banker, and somebody hacks that and uses that to gain to the personal data, that's a big challenge for us, and it's a big security concern, and that's why banks will adapt to AI, at a slower pace. They want it to be more matured, and they also want to see that that governments take right interest to make sure that those things are getting utilized in the right way.
Yeah. So, do you have any more questions that you would like to ask John on your side?
I think that's all we have for today. We can wrap it up.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Mehta. I feel like we learned a lot about the banking world and how it works in conjunction with cybersecurity from you. And I hope with this knowledge, a lot of other people can start their journey in cybersecurity and the banking space. So thank you. Thank you for your
No, no,
time.
you
Thank you
guys are
for
very welcome. You guys are the next generation, and it is my pleasure to talk with you and share, this information. So thank you very much for inviting me.
thank you,
Yeah, no
Mr.
problem.
Mehta, for your time and insight, and thanks for coming on today. This is CyberThreat Talks. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Yep.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.